The courts silence the victims. Um, there's a lady named Tamsen, and she's been trying to get her story out since way early in the days of me being in Hood River. I gotta use the bathroom, but I'm going to press play, and it's an audio recording with her, and she tries to tell her story a bit. It's a very important thing to listen to and to hear. A lot of people are afraid to speak up, and for good reason. I get to interject a lot of things that I felt were important in the situation, and that's because it's my channel. And, a lot of the stuff that I ask is maybe not what people are expecting, or sometimes they have details that they feel are important, and when I ask them a question, I may redirect them somewhere that they weren't expecting to at that particular time. They already had a set of things that they were expecting to say or hoping to get to say, and then I throw them for a loop with a question that they might not have expected. Tamsen has been going through this for a few years, and the first time that she spoke, it was very, very well spoken. It was a very good video, but it wasn't saved. So this time it's a little more stressful of a situation, um, especially with the time thing. And she reinforced that it was actually okay to go longer. So that's good. I'm going to press play, and then I'm going to turn on my car and start driving, and you guys can listen to the recording. All right, Tamsen, obviously we're going to have some sounds of children at play through this. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, a little about your family if you can.
I am Tamsen Rose. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we have my husband is kind of watching the boys right now, but we have two beautiful boys. One just turned 8, and the other is 6, and they are wonderful, and we want to be free and have some justice. And what else can I say? They're the best boys. And I believe I have the best family. And, what else can I say?
Right.
What else can I say?
I know because of what we were talking about just prior to this, that might have been kind of not necessarily how you expected it to open, but with your family, do you guys have any special needs or anything like that as far as raising the children go, or as far as any disabilities?
Yes, our older son, he has severe autism. I would rather say, actually, if you don't mind, I know, but you have a certain diagnosis, but
She's trying to be real sweet and not offensive. She's not going to offend me. I know that some of us are different than others. It's a spectrum. Not everybody is high functioning, and you don't want to be rude and say low functioning, especially when that child may not be low functioning. Just different.
But this is pretty severe. It's a case of, I would say, neurological damage. I hope that doesn't offend you.
You're good.
I mean, we discussed that before, actually. You and I have discussed that before, actually.
We absolutely did.
My husband, yeah.
That was the first video, the one that my camera turned off. Yes, ma'am, you're right.
Yeah.
But yes, that's one of the things I speak out about on my channel is autism, that it is a spectrum and we're all different. Some people are much different, and some people are able to manage and able to play normal and pretend to be normal, and some of us can't. So you're good. All right, so you are still going through an incredible ordeal that started years ago. You have reached out for help. You obviously have gone above and beyond to try to get the truth out there and to try to show people the abuse that you have endured and how you were abused by the system and denied every right that you are supposed to have as a parent and as a human being. So what I want to focus on is I saw a video, and in this video there were police officers and a caseworker who were obviously not doing the right thing legally, and I do have that on my YouTube channel. That's just a small snippet, but tell me what happened there and how it got started.
Okay, before I go into that, let me address my son. Let me get my son real quick because he's eating something. Hold on one moment.
You're good.
Okay? Baby? Love you. Be nice to know you. Okay, so the video that you were talking about, actually, and I'm talking about body cam footage from both departments that were involved as in law enforcement, as in Sheriff's Department and Tulsa Police Department. I mean, the Tulsa Sheriff's Department and the Tulsa Police Department. But the videos, the two videos that I had sent you, actually, that involved the Tulsa Police Department. But what those were not body cam footage. What those were, first of all, they were from a CPS worker's phone. That she had brought them into the adjudication trial, the first day of the adjudication trial, even though she was not testifying. But for some reason, she brought them in, and one of them was, and they're both very, very short, and you see the kids walking, you see both boys walking around in one of them, and then the other one that you were very offended by, of course, which you should be, was the one where the officer was saying, and this is the police officer, he was saying, I don't need a warrant. And his hand was on his gun, as you had brilliantly pointed out. You're the first one to point that out, actually, I want to add. And,
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and so, of course.
So how did it start? The day that happened, and I'm sorry for stressing you out a little bit with that. There's a lot of people on my channel that have kids, so I'm sure they understand. So you're good on that. I don't think they're going to judge you. All right, so tell us exactly what was happening and the very first anything that you knew that anything was wrong. Like the first knock or the first person at your door. How did this very first begin?
Well, I had to backtrack a little bit on that because it didn't just start because, and this is the second time they have unlawfully removed our children, but even the second time, it didn't start on the day that you saw the footage that you had seen, because it was 2 months earlier, November of 2019, because the footage you had seen occurred on January, when they took the boys on January 10th of 2020. But the thing is, November of 2019, what happened was, evidently a neighbor had reported our boys. I mean, they're small for their age, so they're small for their age. So it was reported that we may have been starving and or underfeeding them. It was reported by a neighbor, the hotline of CPS, DHS. And so CPS worker had come to our door in November 2019, wanting to talk to us about the kids, and she could see them both through the window. She was by herself. All she had was a referral, and she just wanted to talk to us. But of course, we exercise our rights, and she could see the kids. And in fact, our younger son, who was fine, he was just fine. And he had even waved to her, and she waved back. And then she turned around after we said, "No, we're not talking to you." He waved to her, and she waved back. And then she turned around, and she was talking on her cell phone, just walking away while talking on her cell phone. And then we didn't hear anything at all for like 2 months until January 10th, 2020. And what she did in the meantime, in between that, what she did in between November 2019 and January 10th, 2020, what she did without our consent was go to look at our boys' medical records. And that's how she saw that they had not gone to a wellness check, because we quit going to those a long time ago. So boys are fine overall. And she sees that we had not been going to wellness checks, so it's reported that they look skinny and that we may be starving them, blah, blah, blah. So we hadn't been taking them, and so because of that, she comes back January 10th, 2020 with other workers and the Tulsa Police Department.
All right, I'm going to pause here. I do want to mention that her children, as far as the healthy age range, they're within the healthy age range, or within the healthy weight range. They're not what's considered malnourished by any means. They're also not obese by any means. These kids are, as far as they have a weight range for your age and for your height, and they want you to meet that as far as considering you a healthy child. If you don't fit that, they'll actually try to steal your kids. Now, as far as having a morbidly obese child, they can also take your children in that situation. But how many of the morbidly obese children that you see in America are being taken by CPS over their obesity? Almost none. Childhood overeating and the health risks that affect all of us later on in life as a result of it, as well as the expense, is quite significant. In early childhood development, being malnourished is actually worse. Here you are on one set, you're putting a lot of weight on a small frame, and it's not healthy. But on the other set, you are depriving your developing brain, your developing liver, your developing heart. All of your parts are still developing. And while they're developing, you are depriving them of nutrients. Obviously, that's not something that is going to have zero effect or zero impact long term. It's going to have a lot of impact long term. But with the health effects of being morbidly obese, yeah, those are also long term. The heart issues, the lung issues, the breathing issues from morbid obesity are more expensive than having to go in and get treated for having cancer from smoking. Obesity costs a lot of money. And that's what a lot of Americans seem to care about, is the cost to weight ratio. As far as her hospital records and all this other crap that is necessary to show that she's been telling the truth.
And I also have the communications reports that show that she had called 911 the morning of January 10th, 2020 to get law enforcement to come and block their way in and try to intimidate us to open the door. Because what they were trying to do, and they still only had a referral. No warrant, no court, nothing, just a DHS referral. And what they wanted was for us to take the boys to their go-to pediatrician. This is a child abuse pediatrician that had a hand in snatching them the first time. They wanted us to take them there to her to get examined by her. And you give her a kid, she'll give you a case. And of course, we're not doing that.
We call it a rubber stamp. So that's why many times they will refer you specifically to rubber stamp doctors. You have the right to go to your own doctor.
Yeah, and
your own doctor did not concur.
That's right,
Your own doctor absolutely did not concur. All right, so I'm going to stop here. So there's several situations that have happened since the beginning of all this, since the first time that they were in contact with me. And as far as the records from the doctors that they went to go, and the doctors the children were sent to go, it shows that Tamsen was actually telling the truth. It was actually those hospital records that are referenced to try to have the children taken away. But the fact is that nobody bothered to look at the evidence. Nobody bothered. And this is going to be a recurrent theme, is that these people were able to pass stuff off that didn't actually happen and to deny that certain things happened by screwing around with the body cameras, screwing around and making the victims of the police and CPS on a wild goose chase trying to get that evidence. That's a horrible thing to do to a fucking victim. It's horrible. And of course, without somebody there in person to speak up and say, hey, this is wrong, you need to cease and desist. We're not going to allow our neighbors to be violated like that. As far as the doctor's paperwork that she has, like, I definitely was interested in it. Definitely took a look at everything that she sent me. So here's the thing, is that her paperwork shows absolute wrongdoing. It shows that while she's trying to explain that, yeah, her kids are in the healthy range. This is what the chart says. This is what the doctor says. The doctor himself and what they showed, the doctor did not recommend that the children be removed. The doctor did say that they were in the healthy age and height range, or weight to height range for their age. And, well, the thing is that through different parts of this, for them going to see these doctors, for parts of this, they didn't have a doctor to go see. The boys were fine. There was, you have your yearly checkup, but then when you've got a system of having you send your kids to a certain set of doctors, and then you want to send them to a different set, well, if one set of doctors doesn't agree with you, are you just going to keep on shopping around until you find a doctor that does? If you've got a doctor who won't look at what's going on, he's just going to assume that what somebody else said is the way that it is, and he's going to make his decisions based on what somebody else said. We've got a major issue, especially when some of those people are not medical professionals by any means. If you're going to harm somebody over something that was said by somebody else, yes, as a medical professional, by not listening to your client, to your patient, not looking at what it is that your patient is telling you, you're going to do harm and nothing but harm. Nothing good is going to come of that. So let's press play. I think we were not recording when we were talking about the actual hospital paperwork itself. And during the recording, she was, like I said, when I ask questions, I may end up making her hop all over the timeline, different portions where things happen. Like at the very beginning, no doctor. And I think that's the point where we're at here in the story, is when she's explaining that, how that situation was going down.
Yeah, and actually we didn't have our own doctor at the time because, like I said, we put going to wellness checks a long time ago. But in theory, yes, you're right. But they didn't need to be checked out by anybody. They weren't starving. They were fine, and you can see them walking around. You can tell they're fine. Kids are not in danger of any kind.
Now, I do want to interrupt you because this is something where autism does come into play, or could. A lot of people who are autistic, they don't necessarily eat. Sometimes they have to be reminded because they don't necessarily get hungry. Now, with that,
in the case of our son, well, actually, with our son, with Nigel, who's the autistic son, actually, he's been eating since he was born. I mean, he is, how do I say it, like a
hollow leg.
A Jethro.
When I was younger, I could eat everything, and everyone hated me because I could eat and eat and eat and never gain weight.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pause this. Me and my sister were both skinny. My sister ate like a bird. We couldn't force her to eat a full meal. She just barely ate, even when she was a kid. And she was always pretty skinny, but not anorexic by any means. Me, I ate a ton, and no matter what, I couldn't gain weight.
And since he was born, yeah, so he big appetite. The metabolism's high, I guess. Yeah, I mean, he just loves food, so, and he's healthy. Yeah. So, and a lot of kids are like that, I think. I mean, or some anyway. So, yeah, so no problem with the eating department there. And both kids were healthy. I mean, and they're walking around. They're not weak. Yeah. So, I mean, you can just tell it by looking at them through the window. So, but it's DHS. Profit. So, of course, they want to make their money. They have a quota to make. So, they're just down determined to get me to open the door. So they're not necessarily there to take the kids, but to take them to someone who would take the kids. Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe that. So,
but they don't have
exercising my rights.
They don't have the legal right to do that without the court documents, without that warrant, and they obviously in that video did not have a warrant.
Yeah, he was saying he didn't need a warrant. He was acting as if, at that time, what you saw, he was acting as if the kids were in danger.
And then they went out and had a conversation and laughed and joked. And could you tell us about that part?
Yeah, that is what was on the Tulsa Police Department body cam footage. That's what we obtained later after the adjudication trial.
How long did it take to get that?
A long time, because we were trying to get it before the trial. And
so would that have affected your trial? Well, do you believe that since that was a situation that happened, they brought you to court over that situation? Is the evidence of what actually happened what they claimed in court?
No, they just tried to act like that never happened.
So they refused to release that until after the court date. They intentionally withheld that evidence.
Yeah, it would seem to be the case. And when we tried to get it before the trial, when we were trying to get it, actually, they claimed that, so I was talking to the guy that runs surveillance, I was talking to him on email, the guy that runs surveillance, and he said that he couldn't give it to me immediately because of COVID.
I got a lot of that. I can verify that is a tactic that has been used against me nationwide. So you're good on that one, and I can verify that is definitely been used a lot to victimize people and to deny them the
Yeah, that's a tyrant's dream come true. Yes. So there you go. Yeah, and so of course we end up getting it later on. And then after the trial, we got it.
All right, so we've got a lot of things going on right now, and obviously it's a sensory issue. It's difficult. Like I always tell people, it's difficult to do taxes while you've got kids in the background screaming. Even if it's playing and it's laughter, it's still going on in the background, and it makes something complicated difficult to do. So as far as the evidence goes, this isn't the first or last time that they did that with the withholding of the evidence or the body cams, is it?
Actually, that may have been really the only one that we had. Well, I mean, like I said, that worker's film, the two videos on that worker's film that you saw, the two little videos, that one, we didn't even know about that until that worker brought it into the trial.
So that's two more recordings. They're supposed to let you know that. That's one of the things about allowed access to any and every piece of evidence that they're going to introduce into court.
And not on the day of the trial, right? I mean, you would
Right.
need time to prepare.
Right.
Yeah.
You do have to have time to prepare.
Yeah, and the thing is that those worked in our favor that day. Instead of record so anything, of course, their favor been shut, of course. Okay, hold on.
All right, I'm going to pause this again. The reason for that is because, all right, when you've got an autistic child and you're trying to pay attention to somebody, you have the best intentions, but that child is going to take up your attention. It is going to happen, and you do have to address it. And sometimes when you've got something important going on, especially as a child of or the parent of an autistic child, sometimes what you're doing is you're praying at that point in time. You're like, all right, I have to make this important call. I hope my son doesn't have a meltdown while I'm making the call. I hope he doesn't swallow something that he's not supposed to before I am able to get to him, because right now he's about 10 feet away in the room, and I usually like to be closer than that kind of thing, you know? Just in case. So, I mean, you're always trying to split your attention between what you're doing, and then, of course, you've got this child that is kind of a wild card, you know? And it makes it difficult to split your attention in both directions. Now, Shannon Alvarado, she was supposed to be helping me, and there were a lot of situations where she did absolutely have to split her attention in the very same way as Tamsen. So for Shannon to assist me, because that's a different situation here, Tamsen is the one who's seeking help in this situation, and I was the one who needed help when it was a situation with Shannon Alvarado. But the situation with an autistic child is the same. You may not pay as perfect of attention as you can to the person that you're talking to or to the words that you're saying, and you might have to, you know, because you're paying attention to your child, you might have to actually stop and try to redirect yourself to whatever it is you're doing. I know with Laura Nelson, when she was washing dishes, if her son was in need of attention, it might take her a few minutes to remember that she was washing dishes. Especially depending on how much time her son is needing to take up at that point in time. And for a lot of people, their worry with the recording thing, like with Shannon Alvarado, for example, she was going to allow me to make the calls that I needed to make and record them, and I had to make them during the day. Well, during the day, her daughter is awake. So when I got there, she let me know that she was afraid of me making videos during the day, where I made calls to like professional agencies like the police. She wanted me to do those at night, because at night, her daughter is supposed to be in bed, and she's less likely to be making a disturbance in the background. See, Shannon Alvarado was afraid that she was gonna get in trouble because people were gonna think that she was abusing her daughter because of the shouting in the background. Where her daughter is not able to speak, she's incapable of it, and as a result, she communicates through guttural sounds, and they don't sound pretty, you know. There's also stimming, the sounds that you make. Somebody who's lower functioning or considered lower functioning, we come to realize recently that even some of the ones that are the lowest functioning are able to access parts of their brain that we don't even know what they do. And that's pretty cool to know too. Anyway, since I'm where I need to be in order to use the bathroom, I'm going to press play so that you guys can hear Tamsen talking about her situation, and also, you know, the she's doing right by her kid. Her kid is obviously autistic, and obviously she is multitasking the best that she's able to in this situation, and her husband is helping too and trying to keep it so that she can get everything across the best she can. She's also having a lot of the same issues with the noises in the background. You know, you're trying to give your full attention to one thing that you really can't. You're trying to find the time where you're able. All right, let's press play.
Okay, so yeah, and then the police, the body cam footage. Now with that was really wild because, like I said, we couldn't get it till after the trial, and then once we were starting to get it, they sent us on a wild goose chase. We went to the police department, and then the police department said to go to the courthouse. That's where the courthouse told us to go to. City Hall, of all places. City Hall acted as if it was the right place to be, but it wasn't. So we just couldn't quit there. So we went back to the police department and finally got it. And then it became very clear as to why they would cover that up. Because this was a very blatant violation.
Now you notice these officers broke the law, and they sent these people on a wild goose chase, knowing that the cops had broken the law. The police are preventing these people from having access to evidence that shows that the police did wrong things, horrible things. I mean, for me, trying to get body camera footage, I get told by attorneys that it's going to take an act of God. No, that's not a legal procedure, stupid. She's gone through a lot of the same stuff, and we did discuss some of that beforehand, before starting the video, and, you know, a lot of that stuff needed to be brought up this time too, but time constraints, and I'm going to pee myself.
What they were doing. Once I walked away.
You have the money to take them to civil court?
Financially, they have let us dry. We have been bleeding dry, financially bleeding dry. So, but I mean, we can like get funding together, and you know, and even poor people can go to the federal level. It's just we need
how
the right people
expensive
behind us.
It does. What? It's either people behind you or money, and that's one of the things that I keep pushing. But if today, if you were to try to get a civil lawyer to take these people in for things that are obviously criminal, would you have the money to be able to go and hire one today? How would you be able to get a good lawyer?
Now, the answer to that is a clear no. I mean, at this very second, no.
And that obviously would take time, and you know, every second that goes by, people's memories get affected. They get, you know, over time they start forgetting important details, and of course that only works out in your predator's favor. Now, one of the things that you were speaking about is how they were separating it. How, you know, the thing with the police and the thing with the sheriff's department. I guess the explanation for that, I want to get...
I'm going to pause again to say that it's after 10 o'clock here at Lillian A. Goodspeed Park. I did not come here to sell drugs. I did not come here to sleep. I came here, even though the park is closed, I came here to use the bathroom because it's open. And I only had to travel about 1.5 miles to get here. So... thank goodness I have a vehicle. If I'd have had to walk that, I'd be screwed and I'd have pissed myself. However, the park is closed. I don't want to be messed with, so I'm going to go cruise around and find a place to park temporarily. I'll park there long enough to, well, move somewhere else temporarily, I guess. Let's press play again.
Starting with the footage that showed up only after court, that you were allowed to get it or able to get it because of the runaround you were put through. What was on that? What was on that?
What was the hold on it? The hold on that? Well, they said COVID.
No, not the hold. What was
the actual footage. What was actually on that camera? That's what I want to know.
Okay, and you're talking about the police department footage. Okay.
Yes.
Well, yeah, you're about to understand more. Yes, that was them. Okay, I had walked away. Okay, they're at the door. So they're at the door. So CPS and TBD are at the door. And my husband was. This is when he first arrived. And my husband was at the store, the grocery store, getting dinner. It's about 11:30 a.m. January 10th, 2020. Okay, so they. Once I walked away with the boys, I went to the bedroom to call my husband to let him know what was going on. And so once I walked away, what that footage shows is them cracking jokes, laughing. They were making. Okay, they were making up stories about. For one thing, they said that I had blue lips. About me being blue in the mouth. And that I was probably running toward the bedroom. I was probably going to the bathroom to flush my drugs down the toilet.
So they've already assumed that you're some sort of a druggie, that they're going to treat you accordingly. They've already assumed there's no evidence.
The thing is, even when they, but when they, the thing is, when they, the thing about the flushing the drugs, actually, they were laughing about it. Now, it was a little bit serious.
I gotta pause again. That scraping sound, that's my tailpipe. I got a screwed up back, and I got a vehicle that's only 4 inches off the ground. I can't get under there to fix it, and I don't have I tried to find a decent incline somewhere here where I could park, where maybe there's a dip in the road where I could repair it. So as far as a place to park, I'm gonna go park at Safeway, and the reason for that is because I want to finish this video instead of getting too much driving done. We'll stick around at Safeway until the video is over, because that scraping is driving me nuts, and it probably ain't very conducive to getting people to hear Tamsen's voice. And Tamsen does need to be heard. I'm waiting at a red light right now, but all right, there we go. Maybe when we get to Safeway, I'll be able to find something that I can bind that up with. If I see anybody that looks like they might have something that we can possibly jack it up with, I'll ask. I do have a jack in my vehicle, but I would literally have to take everything out of my vehicle to be able to access it. Probably gonna, if I can find the time to do it, because I have a lot of other stuff I gotta go through for my own court stuff. But if I'm able to, I'd like to be able to replay this and do it without commenting on it the whole time like an asshole, because really I should be allowing Tamsen's voice to be heard. And if I could have stayed parked where I was at to begin with and not have to worry about, well, when people warn me about staying in a place, I usually take that to heart. And unless it's an extreme emergency, you guys know the tune. End of story. Alright, so we're parked here at the Safeway. And I don't need to have my blinkers on, because we're not turning. You don't have to hear the scraping because we're stopped. You don't have to hear my windshield wipers because I don't have to see out the windshield in order to drive.
Serious when they mentioned, like, what does she take? She's all blue in the mouth. No, that officer sounded a little serious. But the other officer saying something about flushing the drugs down the toilet. tell that she was just bursting out laughing. It was a funny tone, not a serious tone at all.
But it's also the reason that I point that out about them laughing about that is that's one of the tactics that they use nationwide for taking people's rights away. Before they could take your kids away, they had to take your rights away. And before they could take your rights away, they had to manufacture a reason to do so. And
if you mention that the cops were laughing at you, they pretend that there's something wrong with you mentally, because nobody would laugh at a situation like that. Nobody. You would have to be sick in the fucking head to be smiling and laughing in a situation like that. And meanwhile, yeah, her evidence shows exactly that. That's one of the reasons why the situation in Hood River is so paramount to my situation. The fact that when I tried to turn them in, I was forced to turn them into themselves. And they did everything that they could to make me feel as uncomfortable as possible. To let me know with their body language and with their tone and with their actions and with the fact that they just really wanted to be bullies at that point in time. I'm still trying to get that evidence from Hood River. Now, since I have Marcus and all of them, they're going to get together and they're going to talk with me on Monday about the situation with Jamie being abused as well as my own. Well, that's finally some progress. As far as helping Tamsen out, it's the right thing to do. It also shows these things aren't just happening to me, they're happening to many others. Some of these folks, or most of these folks, are lucky enough to be able to stay in the same area, to not have to move so many times, to actually have some people, at least somebody in the area, that is able to help pick up the slack. One person simply is not enough, and with Tamsen and her husband, 2 people is still desperately understaffed. I mean, we're talking about an entire department of sheriffs, an entire department of police. And the legality of it didn't matter. Tamsen is not the only person who is victimized like this. Her boys are not the only people who are victimized like this.
And what they were doing there was, it's called table talk. They were discussing how to violate your rights and take your kids, what they could assume, what they could insinuate, and of course it was funny to them. So when things like that happen to you and they're not allowing that in court, and when the people who are supposed to take this seriously are not taking it seriously, they took intimidating you very seriously. They almost seemed to enjoy that, but then they took a tone about joking about it. This is a very serious thing for you, something that's very scary for you, and they're taking a tone that shows that your children's well-being is not what they're there for.
Right.
The truth is not what they're there for. Now, as far as the warrant goes, obviously we've established that they did not have a warrant and that they were cracking those jokes, and obviously, the footage that I saw showed that they couldn't do anything. They had to leave. That's blatantly obvious to anybody who sees that. So with the situation, once they left, what happened?
Well, yeah, the police department. So the police, they left, and now they came back. Now police and CPS, they came back throughout the day. Technically they were especially CPS. They were stalking us and harassing us throughout the day for about 7 hours. And the thing is, even though the police department was there off and on a little bit, the thing is they transferred it over to the sheriff's department because they knew they lost their qualified immunity. They knew they were on shaky legal ground, and that is because of the video and even the one you saw.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
There's that too. So yeah, but the main thing really the main terror, I would say, actually was CPS. The 3 CPS workers that were outside our door pretty much throughout the day, just all 3 of them with a shit-eating grin on their faces, and they were.
So they were enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, they would probably, if you were to ask them, I have a feeling they would say, well, we had to file so we wouldn't scare the kids. But
that's the thing, is that's not how it comes across to the kids or to the parents, because, you know, the kids at that point, kids aren't stupid. They know what's going on at that point, especially after you being that afraid and having to call your husband. Like, that just scares the children. And it sure puts the fright of God into the parents seeing that. I mean, these are people who are enjoying the fact that you're terrified. They have no legal jurisdiction or right to be there harassing you, and they have done so for hours. Now, as far as the police dipping out and then after committing felonies, several of those situations those actually are felonies that were committed. Most of them are misdemeanors, but some of those were actually felonies. And for them to be able to dip out of the situation and have somebody else come in so they could pretend that they hadn't done anything wrong is entirely wrong. Now, the way that they did so, the way that they presented it, and the way that they prevented you from being allowed to show evidence or even be allowed to have access to it, and the way that they sent you around on a wild goose chase, knowing that they were eating up your time and prevent you from having an honest court date, you know, that's obviously something that is going to scare anyone who that's going through, whether they're a parent or not. But the added fact that you've got your children taken away from you and you're now having to jump through hoops that are very expensive because you were victimized, you know, and then you're prevented from having the resources to do anything about what's been done to you legally. You don't have the money to do that because you're too busy trying to fight what's been done to you already. You're trying to fight the charges they brought against you for being victimized. One of the things that is really needs to be pushed for me out of you this time, because we're already 24 minutes into this, I want to know about, well, all right, so they dropped the charges, but you were assaulted. Who was it that assaulted you?
The sheriff's department.
And this is who the police department had come and fill in for them after they'd broken the law?
Yes, the police department, they, like I said, lost qualified immunity, on shaky legal ground, so they transferred it over to the sheriff's department.
So if one law enforcement agency can't do it, then they'll have another law enforcement agency do it. And if that law enforcement agency broke the law, then they've always got the state patrol that they can rely on. So they've got 3 sets of people that they can go to break the law with before they have to give up.
Yeah.
So, you know, they only had to go through 2 of them. Having the sheriff's department, could you tell me what happened with the assault?
Well, it started when so the sheriff's department comes to babysit CPS to get the kids, based on a sworn affidavit that the sheriff's department admittedly did not look at. I mean, they didn't look at any of these things. They just came in because they're just following orders, and they're babysitting CPS. So they come to the door. They didn't present any paperwork. They had paperwork. They didn't present it. This was 7 hours after the fact, by the way. And my husband went ahead and opened the door because he had been talking on Facebook Messenger with a lawyer friend of ours. And by this time, well, actually, the thing is, CPS had they had an hour before this, so 6 hours into it, they had an emergency court order that was at the, the CPS supervisor had knocked on the door 6 hours into it with one of the workers by her side, and it was just them. And now he went ahead and opened the door for that because because the supervisor said, I just have some paperwork for you. So he went ahead and opened the door. And what she had in her hand it turned out to be an emergency court order, and she said to him, she looked him in the eyes and said, I'm not taking your kids, the cops are. And so then about an hour later, so 7 hours into it, Sheriff's Department comes with CPS. Okay. And the Sheriff's Department ended up having, what they had in their hand was a writ of assistance and petition writ of assistance and the perjured sworn affidavit. Now that was presented. What happened was, so he had opened the door for the Sheriff's Department because the lawyer friend of ours had said, at this point, they're probably going to kick the door in. So you might as well open. And so he went ahead and opened. And once they saw me, I guess that's when they realized I had was about to go towards the bedroom, like take the kids into the bedroom, because I was trying to get them away from the chaos, and I was running toward the closet actually, and so the other person was, and so maybe I'm trying to concentrate. No, it's not. Place in the order. No. So I was running or walking fast, whatever, with the boys toward the closet. They walked after me. They came after me, 2 deputies, and before I could get to the closet, they grabbed me and cuffed me and proceeded to beat me up in front of both the boys. And they said they were charging me with obstruction because I wouldn't give them the boys. And every officer said I was resisting. Arrest. When you have 2 big men, twice your size on you, it's hard to stay still. So that's why
it hurts.
Came in.
All right, so in the background, you can hear her son. When I was younger, it was one of those things where I made a sound. I went, and yeah, it's different. It's a sound I'm making because of Tourette syndrome, but it was very distracting, and I did get in a lot of trouble for that. But that's also how they found out I have Tourette syndrome, is because I made that sound. There's also stimming. When I'm super stressed, I rock back in my car, back and forth, going, ah! All right, it doesn't really sound like that. It sounds a bit different because I'm super stressed. So when I'm super stressed at that point, yeah, it's going to have a lot more to it, But it's not easy for a lot of people. For me, I have the luxury of being able to make a connection with them that a lot of people, they don't realize that there's still a human in there. We're not primates. And even primates have emotions.
Yeah.
How do you stop yourself from moving when somebody is trying to initiate a pain response in you?
Exactly, especially when they're both twice your size. I'm very little, so yeah, there you go.
And that's another thing. Like you're not a big person. You're not even close to a big person. You are little. And your husband, I'm not going to say that he's big or little, but I am definitely going to say that genetics do come into play. I was always smaller than the rest of the kids in my class. For one period of time when I was on medications, the medications made me fat for about 6 months, 8 months. But other than that, I've always had a really high metabolism. Also, I'm only 5'9", which is shorter than the average man. And when I was growing up, no matter how much I ate, I was skinny. But as far as the situation with the police screwed up, they they outright screwed up. And so CPS, even though this whole double jeopardy thing that they were playing, they were going to continue to play until they got what they wanted. They were going to continue to manipulate and scare you until they got what they wanted. Now, for you guys, as far as all of this from the very beginning, how much money do you think it would have taken on top of what you've already spent to actually get heard? I don't want to ask you how much you've already spent because that's pretty private, but has this made you broke?
Yeah. I was just charging my phone, by the way. I was putting my phone on charger. Yeah, I mean, we got, yeah, I mean, it's.
All right, I'm going to stop it right here again. I am going to start it up. We're a little over halfway through it. I've noticed through a lot of this, as soon as she starts getting to an important part, I interrupt her and I redirect it again. And that's exactly what I told her I would not do. And through the entirety of this, I've been doing that. That's exactly what I've done. Now, there's important points that she had to make. The first video that we made, and also the second one, the ones that it just didn't work. And that's not her fault. She didn't choose for it not to work out, and she did spend that time to do so. But also, this is an ongoing situation. This is not a situation that stopped 6 months ago, or 4 months ago, I think is what it was.
No,
Sorry, I was trying to keep it on. Now, I am going to make sure that this whole video is recorded, but I am going to stop it for a couple of minutes, and I'm going to get a hold of Tamsen. I want to let her know that, this one's, at least it's a start, but that, most of the issues that are going on here with her not getting to say what really needs to be said, and mind you, the reason I'm saying this is because I've let her finish saying these things before. I know how important the things that she's about to say are, and I actually do need to let her say them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let her know that next time, I think probably the best thing that she could do is pick out the pieces of evidence that she thinks are the most important to explain about and to explain the impact, and actually it'll be her show 100%. I'll get on there, I'll let her have her intro and let her do her speaking, and I will keep my mouth shut. That's hard to do. A lot of people that wanted to help me, the problem isn't that they didn't want to help. The problem is that they got an idea in their head and they just wanted to blurt it out and they couldn't stop themselves. And until they had the ability or the space to blurt it out, anything that they were saying or anything that I was saying was basically only partially sort of heard, because they're focused on trying to find the time to poke in that nugget that they've got in their head. And they've also got their nugget in their head. When I say nugget, that thought or that expression or that thing that they feel they have to say now. So they spend a lot more of their brain power trying to focus on remembering what it is that they want to say and not forgetting it, because something else might be said from that person that you're listening to that will make you want to say something else. And, you get 3 or 4 of those in a row, you forget what you were going to say the first one and the second one and most of the third one. So I want to let her know that if she gets that out and she pulls it out and she reads from that and she explains the evidence that she has that shows that it's lies, like, these officers are looking at.
All right, it's reconnected. Good to be with you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind. Be ever vigilant. I feel that I have done Tamsen a disservice in the way that I was trying to assist her today. I had good intentions, but I butched it royally. And I also want to apologize to all of you for anything in this that may have been misconstrued, mistaken, or, of course, for the way that the events and the situation as they happened are not being properly expressed because I keep interrupting and interjecting and making it about me, and that is so incredibly wrong. And Tamsen and her husband and her boys deserve a better service than that. Those of you who hate me, if you've got a channel that you know of that is able to do better than me, because there are, please do so. Also, I'm going to finish this because there are people that there's other videos with other people who are better at this than I am, that you can actually see some of the evidence that she talks about in this. And it'll make a lot more sense when you've seen it. When people tell you about something, it's a passing thought. When you've seen the actual evidence of it, then it starts to register to you as a fact. That is why showing somebody is so important. Show them the evidence as you're telling them. And I believe that these other places that she gave a shout out for, they did her a good service and they went above and beyond for her. And I believe that her mentions of those places do need to be heard as well. I fucked this one up, and that's my bad. The other two times I didn't fuck it up. It was just a matter of circumstance and a matter of way the electronics happened to work. This one right here, I fucked it up big, and I have to apologize also because it's a situation that's super important where it could affect other people's. I am sorry for cursing in this one. I don't want that to detract from Tamsen, who is absolutely the victim in all this, and her husband and her boys. Please help them.